republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And it is kind of a windy, stormy, rainy Sunday afternoon, and I'm kind of here for it. If you've listened to the podcast for any amount of time, you know that I am these headphones are bothering the heck out of me. Let me adjust these things. Sorry about that. You'll know that I'm in wintertime, I want it to warm up. Middle of summer, when I'm about done with the heat, which is probably middle of July, I'm like, man, bring on the cool weather. And we've kind of been hot here, and I'm not digging it anymore. I'm kind of ready for fall mode. In all actuality, I'm ready for winter mode. I just got texting a guy, a friend of mine, by the name of Bill, and if he's listening, he'll know who he is. And he was telling me he went and he got up. He's lived in a fifth wheel trailer for quite a while, and they just settled down and bought a house. And he's kind of getting his house all set up. And he went and he got out all his reloading stuff. And he's kind of getting excited because now he's going to have a place to reload again. He's like, man, I've got this, I've got that. I need to go and I need to find some of this. I need to purchase some of this. And he's getting pretty jazzed about reloading. And I've been talking about reloading for the last couple of weeks, actually, to anyone who bothers to listen to me. That's typically my wife. And I am looking forward to winter this year. I have not bought any ammo this year. I usually make two big purchases every year from say not a local place, but I usually make two big orders from Freedom Munitions up in northern Idaho. And I have been unable to do so this year. Trying to keep the business alive. So I have everything I need to reload, and I haven't reloaded anything for a couple of years. And winter's coming, and I think I'm going to sit down on the days where I don't have any classes, because it does slow down significantly in the wintertime, as you can all imagine. And I'm fixing to sit down and cast a bunch of bullets, powder coat a bunch of bullets. I'm fixing to reload a bunch. I would like to, and this isn't that lofty of a goal, I suppose, but I don't have a big Dillon reloader, one that does it automatically, or even a progressive. I do have a Lee progressive press, but I use my Lee turret press as the one I prefer. And I've explained how I've reloaded before in the past, but I'm looking forward to using that thing. And it doesn't mass produce them. It'll take me a little while, especially since I cast all my own bullets. I just, I don't go and buy bullets. I cast my own. But I would love to be able to sit down. I'd love to be able to cast and reload anywhere from, I want to say 10,000 rounds. I don't think that's pretty lofty for me. I'd like to be able to do 7,000 or 8,000 rounds. I mean, my attention span, I can't sit down probably and reload all day long, even if I don't have anything else going on. My attention span's not going to allow that. So I got to do it in spurts. But I think if I, from 6 to 7, maybe 8,000 rounds, I think that's a pretty doable goal for me. And honestly, I got a whole bunch of rounds that I have purchased, a bunch of factory rounds. And all my reloaded stuff, I kind of finally just shot through it all. The way I reload is I like really soft rounds for really like pussycat rounds for just shooting on the range, powder puff loads, and that way my kiddos can shoot and stuff like that. So typically what I do is I'll load, I'll look up the load specs, and I'll load, and I will load down like 2, 3, maybe 4 loads. I do like ladder loads, but I go down, and then I will go out and I'll shoot, and I'll find the load, that specific load recipe that barely functions my gun, and then I'll just add like a grain or two, and make it so it functions my gun, but it's just real soft, right? And that's kind of what I like to do. Well, when I started putting optics on all my guns, it got to the point where those reloads, because I run such a fine line when I reload, I those reloads I made would not run my optics. Any of the guns that had the optics. There was just enough weight, it wouldn't do it. And so I do have a couple guns with no optics that I've been letting my kid shoot them. Actually, you know what? I've actually probably shot most of them. He shot a few. I don't let him shoot a ton of reloads. And I've never had a problem with reloads, but his fingers, right? I value his little hands, so I don't want anything to happen to him. So I shoot him mostly. But anyhow, I've pretty much burned through almost everything I've had as far as reloads are concerned. So now it's time to work up a new recipe because, hell, I don't remember that old one. I might write something down. I do not. So it's time to work up another load, make it so it'll run in my guns that have optics, and then get after it again. So that's my goal this winter, like anyone cares, but that's what I'm going to sit down and do all winter. In fact, I think as soon as I get done recording this podcast here, I'm going to holler at my kiddo, have him come out. I think we're going to go hit the dirt berm, the range berm, and I'm going to just pick through it a little bit and pick all the lead off the top. It's kind of like a big Easter egg hunt. It's kind of fun. So anytime I can get my hands on lead, something I can melt down. And I've been collecting lots of lead over the last 2 or 3 years, getting it from here, getting it from there. People give it to me. I buy some of it if I find it for super cheap. And I had a bunch before anyway. So it's time to get back after it. I'm looking forward to it. And my guns could use a good cleaning. So I guess if you're going to put money on something, right, I guess the big wager would be whether Todd's going to clean his guns first or if he's going to start reloading first. I don't know. I don't know. I may get stuck with reloading and not get those guns cleaned again. I don't know. It's a do as I say thing, not as I do, because I don't always do correctly when it comes to actually firearm maintenance. I just expect that I need to grab them from the safe and have them work, which, to be honest with you, most of them will. If we hit a point where a slide is sticking or something like that, I'll break down and first of all, I'll spray a bunch of oil in it. If that doesn't work, I'll break down and I will clean the thing. But I got a 22 here that I know I'm going to clean, and I guarantee you there's so much lead in the barrel of that 22 that it's going to be a bitch to clean. It's going to be... I'm gonna have to get some lead remover. It's gonna be hard to jam that freaking cleaning rod through there. I just guarantee you it's gonna be tough. So anyhow, there's that. But what else I got going on here? Not a whole lot. Just I've been had a lot of private classes. Working on the next permit class, which the next permit class is going to be a little interesting. My law enforcement officer that does the permit class, he's still going to help me with it. He's required by state law to teach part of it. And he has some stuff at work going on, which is going to take up his time on Saturday mornings now. So for the last 13, 14 years, my permit classes have started with the classroom portion in the morning, 8 to 12 to 8 to 12:30. We do the PowerPoint, the classroom portion of it, and then we break for lunch. And then after lunch, they come back. They do the shooting portion, come back inside. We go over the paperwork, talk to them about that, answer their questions, and they are out the door. So that's been the typical way that I have done that class. I think that this is I love the guy that is doing, I really like the guy, and I like how he presents the information, the law enforcement guy. I really enjoy that. So what I think I am going to do, because he offered to still do the class, he just can't come in the morning. I think I'm going to open up the class with the kind of the opener, go over a few things, go over the safety, go over the shooting fundamentals, and then I think in the morning we will go out and shoot. I've got to organize my PowerPoint correctly, though. Time everything just right and go out and shoot in the morning. Be done shooting by like 11-ish. And then send them to lunch, have them come back, And then when they come back, the law enforcement officer will be here, and he will take over, and he will do his part of the PowerPoint presentation. Then I will finish mine. Then I will get them to paperwork, and they will be on their way headed home. So we're going to kind of flip it on its head and tear apart the PowerPoint and mix stuff up a little bit. So supposed to work on that today. Probably tomorrow. I'm going to work on that. Said it's all about timing, and this is coming from a guy that I really dislike change. If it's worked for 14 years, I don't feel the need to change it, but I have to change it. So I am going to step outside my comfort zone, and I think this next permit class, we're going to try and switch it up. So I'll report back and let you know if it was a flop or if it went okay. I think it'll go okay. I'm just gonna have to get used to it. Like I said, I've built everything around doing it one way, and now I got to change. That's gonna be a little weird for me. I had some law enforcement officers come last Saturday and do some stuff. And do a little bit of training. I'm not allowed to mention the agency that they're with, exactly, but they showed up, did a bunch of training out here, and we'll get into that here in a minute because something kind of stuck out to me, and it's something I've known, but it's really just kind of been, it's like a reoccurring theme, a reoccurring thing that keeps popping into my head, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. Usually when something like that pops up, I just like to pay some attention. Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes it's something, but it may help someone out a little bit. What else do we got going on? I got the women's and the men's academies. They're running through courses right now. They're having a good time, and just enjoying it. We got them all through the draw and shoot, that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens with that. We are coming up on the time of year too, where that's another, I need to make a list for this week, but that's another thing that I need to do is we're getting really close. And I do this a little earlier in the year, a little earlier in the season every year. And it's time for me to actually start putting dates together for my permit classes for next year and dates for the men's and women's shooting academies and really sit down and decide. Right now, this year I've got I've got two beginner women's shooting academies. I've got one advanced women's shooting academy. I've got one men's probably beginners type shooting academy, and then I have the elite group, and they all meet on different days and different nights. That's two each, so that's what is that? That's 2, 4, 6, 8. So that's 8 days a month, 8 evenings a month that I am tied up with those classes. Plus, I got a couple little side classes that I do. Same type of situation, kind of a specialty one-off. I say one-off, but kind of specialized for a couple small groups of people. So that's 2 more, it's 4 more. So that's like 12 days a month that I've got, not tied up all day, but I've got dedicated classes. And so I need to sit down. I need to look at that. I need to put pencil to paper and get out my calendar, which I hate doing. I hate this part of this job. I'd rather just teach people to shoot. That's where all the fun is for me. I got to sit down and decide, am I going to do this next year again? Am I going to do these academies? I believe that I will, but how am I going to adjust them? How am I going to change it? The Elite Academy, this was the first year I did the Elite group. I'm enjoying it, but is it worth it? Is it worth the, what's that saying? Is it worth it? I love to do these classes, but is it worth the bucks, right? Is it worth what I'm making off of it to do it? And the time involved. I think it is. I don't know. We'll see. I have to sit down and kind of lay it all out and see how much time it's going to take, dedicate to it, and is it, if I get my biggest bang for the buck made type of whatever that is. So is the juice worth the squeeze? That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's the juice worth the squeeze. I don't remember anything, folks. I'm not going to remember something like that, but there you go. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But I'm going to get these dates hammered out. I'm going to decide which ones are going to continue, which ones are going to be discontinued. And then I'm going to get these dates out early, and I'm going to get them in front of people and open up signups probably a month earlier than last year, if it comes down to it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. These groups, they continue to grow every single year. This year was a lot slower for people to sign up. I don't think it was down, maybe down just a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know. It's always a risk every year, because do I set the classes up and then only have half the people sign up or a quarter of the people sign up and go, is this totally worth it? But once they sign up, they've signed up, and I got to hold the classes. So it's something I'm just going to have to kind of look at. So, there's lots of new stuff coming for next year. We'll see what that's going to do. For the next permit class, I just talked about how I'm going to have to revamp that and give that a go. I love that class. It's how I started doing what I do, and I'll always keep doing it. There's always a need for it. But I think, like I said, it's time to reorganize it to allow the law enforcement officer to come back, and I might be time to revamp it a little bit. Things change, and revamp it a little bit makes it a little more interesting for me, maybe better quality for my students. We'll see. I got lots of stuff I got to take a look at. I know I've talked about it all before, but I have these thoughts sometimes, and sometimes the thoughts sit in my brain, and I talk about them. I just sit there and marinate for a year or two before I do anything about them. And I don't know why it takes me that long. Sometimes it just doesn't seem right, and then one day I'll just get this idea of, you should finally do that. You've been thinking about it, and there you go. There's my good idea or bad idea, whatever. But that's the way it works for me. So I was thinking, I'm looking at my notes here. If you can tell that I'm looking away from the mic, maybe you can hear that. Just something I wanted to, touch on. I had these law enforcement officers come, and they did great, and it was fun. I didn't have them come. They called me up and set up a class for certain reasons, and they wanted to come and do a little training out here. And they wanted to do a bunch of stuff. It's kind of a one-off class, so I'm like, okay, what are you looking for? What do you need? And that's kind of what I specialize in, right? If you don't sign up for a permit class or the men's or women's academy or whatever, you can call me. You can get a hold of me. We can talk about what you want. I can set it up. And I'm like, I don't know where any of these officers are at as far as their shooting abilities. Like, I just don't know. And so what are we looking for? And they told me some things that some of the officers were having, trouble with when it came to their post or their qualifications and stuff like that. And a lot of it was, they struggle doing a mag change and getting back onto target quickly. They struggle, some of them, they struggled shooting prone. Just little things like this. So they asked, can we do some of that? Can we do some of that? And I was like, yeah, we can. And, a month went by, and I'm kind of putting these curriculum together for these classes, and they show up. And the first thing I said to them was, this is going to be unlike any other class that you've ever taken. First of all, it's not a law enforcement class, right? It's not going to be laid out the same. We're still going to be safe. We're still going to do this, but you'll see what I mean. And we went out to the range, and I had a line of tables there. And I know they weren't expecting that. I got the line of tables on the firing line. And I'm like, we're going to start this with, if you've ever taken a class of mine, you'll understand that I really like this drill, and then you'll think about it, and you'll understand how good this drill was. I said, we're going to start with the 50-50 drill. And so we started doing stuff like that. And as I was teaching them and progressing and growing those things, what I got into was what? Fundamentals. If you can, and I talk about this all the time, so you're probably like, Todd, we've heard about this, but I can't stress this enough. It came up a lot the last couple of weeks, actually. If you can master the fundamentals, if you are good at the fundamentals, which are what? grip, trigger press, stance, sight picture. If you can master those, you can do damn near anything when it comes to shooting. You have trouble shooting prone? Dial in your fundamentals. Really, shooting prone is just shooting from the ground, shooting on your stomach, right? And if you've got good fundamentals, you're good to go. Everything starts with good fundamentals, right? You want to learn how to draw the gun. I can teach the draw. That's not necessarily a fundamental, but all the fundamentals work together in that draw stroke to make you quick, to make you accurate, to make you, acquire the sights, to keep you safe. They work like that. It's like turbocharged fundamentals at that point, right? You want to learn how to change a magazine, and you learn how to do that. So you know how to do that, but you struggle with getting your sights back on target right away. It's all in the fundamentals. How are you gripping the gun? How are you driving that gun out? Are you sloppy in your mag change? Are you holding the gun, down? Are you holding it up in your workspace? Or you're just going to, drop the mag, slap a new mag in, rack the slide, and punch the gun back out, at eye level. So you can gather the sights or gather that dot, whatever it is you're using. And then how do you prep the trigger on the way out? Like it all comes down to the fundamentals. I can't stress that enough. But not only, when you first come for the beginner's class, you learn the fundamentals. But then you need to keep going, because once you master those and get good at those fundamentals, then I think the way I teach stuff is I teach how do the fundamentals work together. Like, why am I doing it that way? Why am I gripping the gun like this? Why am I, putting pressure from front to back? Why am I doing the clamshell? Why am I lining the sights up like that? Why do I drive the gun out a certain direction, a certain way? Why is fishing bad? Why is bowling bad? Once I learn why, then I can talk about how all those fundamentals, the grip, and how a good proper grip offers top-notch recoil management, and how that enables you to drop those sights or that dot back down onto target if you're managing that recoil through grip. That trigger press, combine trigger press with that. How do I load up the trigger? How do I get to that wall, right? How do I take one shot? How do I drive out, be on the trigger, take the shot at full extension with my sights, are right there on the target, which should happen every single time if you're doing it right. And then take that shot, manage the recoil enough to where you let out, find that reset, and you can just touch off that second round as soon as your sights drop right back down on the target without you having to move the gun around to find it. All that works together. It's like a dance, folks. It's like a dance. It really is. It's like a dance. There's a rhythm to it. You have to find that rhythm. Once you find that rhythm and you can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and I'm not talking take a shot, ooh, that was good shot, and let's do it again, repeat it there for the next shot, drive the gun back out, repeat it. You want that kind of repeat, but then you want that seamless repeat, right? What we just talked about. Drive out, take the shot, gun recoil, slide comes back, slide goes forward. You come out to reset, your sights drop, you touch off the next shot. And it does it again, that's 2, does it again, that's 3, does it again, that's 4, does it again, that's 5. It's literally just a rhythm. It's a pattern. It's a dance. It's choreographed, whatever, right? It's just fine-tuned stuff that all works together if you're doing it right. And that takes practice. With good, solid fundamentals, once you realize how everything works together, you can do damn near anything. You can. It's literally just repeating those fundamentals. Up close, sure, that works. The fundamentals work. Go back a little bit further, they work. Don't mash the trigger harder, you're going to miss the freaking target. It works. You literally are doing the same thing. You get back too far with your pistol, then you kind of got to have to know about some holdover and some different things like that. You have to adjust, right? But it all works together. And that's what I told these officers. I said, hey, look, And it's all about the fundamentals. You dial in those fundamentals. And you know what? You think, oh, law enforcement officers, they probably have pretty good fundamentals. No, I'm not going to knock them. They were good shooters. They really were. But guess what? Their trigger reset, needed to work. I say sucked. It was, it needed to work. I taught them how to do that faster, how to get on target quicker, right? It's the little things that matter. You don't have those, you don't have anything. I overheard... I overheard some people talking, a person talking in one of my classes, and I heard him say this, and they said, "Hey, if Todd's the man, like Todd," and I'm just repeating what they said, folks. Okay, I'm not trying to, toot my own horn or blow my own whistle or give myself kudos. Okay. They said Todd's the man. I mean, you want to learn the basic fundamentals, you come see Todd. Like beginners, come see Todd. And I don't know, as far as anything past that, I don't know how he's going to do. But he can do the beginner stuff like crazy. He's the best in the valley at that. I heard that, and I appreciated that. But then I got terribly offended because it was all, I know he can do the beginner stuff, but if you're a beginner, he's the person for you. Honestly, that offended me because I want to be able to do more, right? I want to be able to do more. And honestly, it's not that I can't do more. It's just that the fundamentals is more. Granted, you move and shoot, that kind of stuff, but you still gotta have to have good fundamentals for that. You still have to be able to control the trigger. You still have to have good grip. You still have to manage the recoil, even when you're moving and shooting. If you know the fundamentals, you're in. Now, I'm not saying don't go and take more classes, because how are you going to master those fundamentals? How are you going to get quicker on the fundamentals? How are you going to interlock those fundamentals together to create that perfect shot, then the perfect second shot, third, fourth, fifth, whatever it is, right? For that magnificent mag dump that you want to do, right? You got to have good fundamentals. So that is shooting. Like I said, I'm not saying stop shooting after your beginner's class by any means, but anything else is just good fundamentals. I've went out and taken a ton of different pistol classes, and they each had a different way of explaining the fundamentals. I took the one, it wasn't a beginner's class by any means, and we shot 1,500 rounds in 3 days out of the pistol, which was a lot of ammo, and your hand was sore, and I got blisters, and everyone was taping their fingers up. It was a pretty intense class, but guess what? It just went over the fundamentals. Really, it went over the fundamentals. And by the end of the class, everyone was shooting quick. They were shooting accurate. They were like, holy shit, I never shot this good in my entire life. But what did they do? This guy, when he explained the fundamentals and he really delved into the grip and the grip pressures and how to manage that recoil and how to shoot flat, right? What else did he do? He took a scientific approach to it. And he delved deeper in it, so it made sense to people. And I'm not the science guy, right? But I still remember what I learned. Sorry about my voice, by the way, folks. The allergies are insane this week in the state of Idaho, at least where I live. In fact, I should take it. Hang on. There you go. Maybe that'll smooth that. There you go. Smooth that gravelly voice out a minute. But he went to the science aspect of it. This dude had charts. He had videos that he had put together. He had doctors that he had talked to, and it explained how the muscles in your hand worked and how you need what you needed to do to be able to grip the gun correctly and why it worked. Why does putting pressure here work? Why does this work over here? How do I manipulate my trigger finger without moving everything else? Why does the trigger press work the way it does? What muscles are working in your hand? Why does sometimes going to what we call the power crease on your trigger finger, why does that work for some people and some people it doesn't? It's a whole thing. And they delve deep into this. And we paid lots of money to be in this class, right? Lots of money to be in this class. But as I was driving home, I sat back and I was like, really, all we did was learn the fundamentals. We just looked at the fundamentals a different way. We took an in-depth view of the fundamentals. We were able to like I said, talk about how the body, your hands, your arms, your neck, your shoulders, how that performs the fundamentals. Sorry about sniffing in the microphone. How the body performs the fundamentals. And you started to understand how it all worked together and how it was this big, beautiful dance rhythm choreography. I can't even say that freaking word. Choreographed mess, right? That all worked. And honestly, once you do that, you can do absolutely anything. I have people that laugh when they come to my range sometimes. Oh my God, we're so close. Anything you need to learn to be able to shoot well, you're going to learn close. You don't need to go back to 25 feet. You don't need to go back or 25 yards. You don't need to go way back, 10 yards even. You can learn everything close. People think too much into this. Like, they just really do. Fundamentals. I know they can be boring, but they can also be very interesting, especially when you figure out how it all works. So I'm going to jump down off that real quick because I am fixing to sneeze, actually. And I don't want to sniff in the mic anymore, but the wind started blowing, and that is blowing smoke and dust and all kinds of crazy stuff, and my nose is not doing well, folks. So I am going to go ahead and leave you with this and just say, hey, I do appreciate you listening to the podcast. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. Hope this one helps you out. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes you just got to keep listening to things, and sometimes it'll be phrased out perfectly or reframed, and you'll go, oh, that light bulb will come on, and you'll be like, oh, I get it. I understand. So maybe this will do that for you. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But if you're bored, check it out. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. I will talk to you guys later. I will see you in 1 week. Thank you. Bye.